Let's turn to General Lord Richard Dannatt, who's the former head of the British Army, of course, and at times an advocate for foreign aid. Lord Dannatt, appreciate your time joining us from Westminster, as we see. In my introduction, I talked about the fact that some people were critical of the idea of aid for trade. What's wrong with aid for trade?
I don't think there's anything wrong in principle with aid for trade, but let me just say front up, given your introduction, I very much regret the reduction that the government made a while ago to reduce our spending on foreign aid in the round from 0.7 of GDP to 0.5 of GDP. I think it's a huge mistake. I think one of the ways that the UK has achieved influence, beneficial influence in the world over the years, is through a harmonisation of our diplomacy, our defence and our focused application of development money. And I think it's a shame that we have cut several £billion out. That said, what the Foreign Secretary is saying is reasonable, but within the context of that wider point I've just made, I think it's a shame that we've cut our overseas aid budget quite considerably.
Do you think it's wishful thinking sometimes that we think we're buying influence with aid, but actually we're not? I mean, I'm thinking specifically, for instance, the pictures that we saw back in late February. Imran Khan, who at the time was still Prime Minister of Pakistan, glad-handing one Vladimir Putin, about 2 days after the invasion began, signing a big new wheat deal between Pakistan and Russia. We give Pakistan £250 million a year in foreign aid so that they can cosy up to our enemies.
Well, influence is a byproduct. It's a beneficial byproduct. What is the main product is actually the benefits to the countries to which our aid goes, what they can do with that money. And this comes back to the Foreign Secretary's principal point, that we can focus some of the money to maximise UK trade with those countries. That is beneficial for our country, of course. It's beneficial for those countries, and as the byproduct, it does also increase influence. Yes, of course, Imran Khan glad-handing Vladimir Putin is an ugly scene, but we could all pick selective incidents to show how it's not working.
Yeah. I mean, part of the problem surely right now is that we have a cost of living crisis. We've got tremendous pressure on spending, on budgets. We were mentioning Vladimir Putin. You know far better than most people how there is a deep and pressing urgency right now to increase spending on defence. Some people say up to 4% of GDP. Something's got to give. And in the minds of some people, that's not going to be the education budget or the National Health Service or defence. And we're looking still, as you say, from 0.7 to 0.5%. That is still £12 billion a year, and that still makes us the third biggest donor in the world behind the US and Germany.
Yes, we'll put it in the widest context. If the UK wants to play a major role on the world stage, then actually its development budget is a key part of that. But you can probably see in the shot behind me, Houses of Parliament. I'm about to go back in there and speak in a debate on defence, and I'm going to be making the case for an increase in our defence spending. When you put our defence spending, when you put our overseas aid spending against the context of our social security spending, our health spending, our education spending, those elements spent on defence and development are really actually quite small. But what this country can do on the world stage is considerably above the few extra billion that we're actually arguing for and talking about. It is well worth doing in the wider context, and it plays into the wider argument about increasing British trade, which is good for the partners that we trade with. It's actually good for this country as well.
Welcome to the GB News YouTube channel. You can watch us live 24 hours a day, catch up on your favourite shows and join in the conversation in the comments below.
Don't forget to subscribe and you'll never miss any of our exclusive content.